What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex.
I'm Christina.
And we're going to be talking about episode 2 of Lovecraft Country. So let's do it. All right, guys, so last week we did an episode on it, and we really didn't know what we were going to be doing or how the format was going to be, and we were just kind of giving our initial thoughts, and we had a lot of popular opinions about, about things that we had forgotten to mention. So this time we decided directly after we recorded it that we were going to add more stuff that was in the episode this time around instead of just winging it. So hopefully this format will please much more people than last time. But we did get some good compliments, and thank you guys for that. We appreciate it. You know, sometimes when we run these things, you just never know what we're going to do.
And we've never done this before, together.
Like for deep dives, we usually do our podcast. So if you've never listened to our podcast, we always post links here, or you can listen to it audio anywhere you listen to podcasts called Beyond the Void Horror Podcast, which is why this channel is up, and we do extra content on here. Just for your information, just so you know, we'll do like an hour and a half podcast on 2 movies and break it down, do trivia, all stuff like that. So if you're ever interested, check that out. This is like the first time Christina's done the video thing with me.
I don't like to be on camera.
Yeah, well.
I don't even like listening to my own voice.
Yeah. So, episode 2 this week of Lovecraft Country from HBO Max, and we watched it. And we got some thoughts on it. The second episode is called Whitey on the Moon, which is a song by Gil Scott-Heron, who was a poet / spoken word kind of musician. He was into blues. He actually coined the term bluesology.
And they actually put the spoken word
in the end of the episode, yeah.
Which I was like, I thought it was weird at first, but I liked it.
By the way, guys, as you may already know, this is a spoiler cast. We're going to be talking about a lot of the things that are in the show, and this is really kind of...
I can't keep my mouth shut, so it has to be spoiled.
This is definitely for those of you who have seen the show, so just giving you a heads up on that. So, Whitey on the Moon is the name of the episode, and it's also the name of the song, or the spoken word that he did, which is all about how they were spending money on going to the moon,
billions of dollars,
rather than helping out the people of color at the time who were suffering from economic, woes and everything. And that's why this episode is very important. It's a very big topic in this. They even jump to the Jeffersons, like right off the bat.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Moving on up, and they're like seeing all this like wonderful stuff. Like George is like just so happy that he's got every single one of the books that he's ever loved.
Right.
And Letitia, which, by the way, we got her name now.
We got it right. I'll probably mess it up again.
That's okay. But anyway, so Letitia's like all excited about all the clothes that she can wear,
and they're all like really nice clothes.
And they all fit her perfectly.
Yeah.
So it seems like this is like kind of like giving them everything that they wanted to kind of distract them from what's really going on. Mm-hmm. And what I'm gathering, not reading the book, of course, is that they're making a lot of parallels to that time and era, and that are still going on today in some regards. Mm-hmm. So trying to distract everybody with certain things while these other things are going on behind the scenes. But yeah, it was weird that they played the Jeffersons. This is like kind of all over the place, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know if the Jeffersons, I didn't look it up, but maybe the Jeffersons was on. I thought it was in the 70s. Yeah. Jeffersons actually was on between 75 and 85, and I watched it growing up as a kid. So I remember watching that because I'm old as fuck. Hello.
Hello.
and her, yeah. But we get introduced to William Braithwaite. Sounds like they have a D in there sometimes.
Yeah, it
but it's Braithwaite. He's the blonde guy in Mr. Samuel Braithwaite's house. Technically, he is the heir of some... He's established this home, the Artem House, the Artem Lodge.
Yeah, he's in this cult.
Yeah, pretty much, which I'm wondering, some people have theorized that they're pretty much like the Aryan cult or something like that.
Yeah, or something in terms of Freemasonry, kind of like that or something. I don't know.
Right. So first of all, let's before we get too far into it, what did you think of this episode compared to the first episode?
This episode was like kind of all over the place.
There was a lot of information.
Yeah, it was a lot of information, and then I was getting confused on certain scenes.
Okay.
Like, from what was going on, but finally I caught on. I liked the first episode better. There was more creatures, and
a little bit more action. This was more of kind of like the info dump episode, to catch us up to what's like really going on.
Yeah,
and there was a lot.
But you still don't know what the fuck's going on.
Well, I kind of do. Like, I have an idea, much better idea. I didn't think they were gonna like bury the lodge that quick or the house.
Yeah, that was quick. But
yeah, I'd seen that in like one of the trailers where the house was collapsing or wherever. Mm-hmm. So I knew to expect it at some point, but I didn't know it was going to happen in the second episode. So they really gave us a lot of stuff.
Getting right to it. They're just getting right to it.
I mean, I enjoyed the first episode a little bit more than I did this one, but this is like really important stuff. So I'm assuming that the third episode is where we're going to see some really interesting stuff start to happen. Right away, when he's introduced into William, like everybody, of course, doesn't remember what happened the night before.
Well, only Atticus.
Only Atticus does, but we find out later why that is. We'll cover that in a little bit. And then he's asking where his father is, Montrose, where he's like, they're like, oh, he went with the lawyer somewhere. The lawyer's with him, and they're taking care of something. And he was like, what? You just said he was just right here. That was a little confusing for me until later on we figured out why.
Exactly.
So they were covering for some other thing that was happening. They sort of get the picture, I think, that they're like under this like really weird house because they're getting treated nice. And they're like, there's some reason why.
Yeah, they're like...
It's like something's up.
Like, when has a white person invited you into their house? And
like this rich-ass house. Like, there's some things that they point out in it that I think is pretty important, too. So, but they go into town. They talk about how they want to go into town. And he's like, oh, yeah, just make sure you come back before nighttime.
Right, and all of a sudden their car is there, not crashed.
Not damaged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't remember how damaged it was from the first episode. I meant to go back and look
because there was so much shit happening in those scenes in the last episode. It was a lot.
Yeah, there really was.
They go to town
and they meet that woman. Her name is Dell. She's got black hair and she's like a fucking
cunt.
Wow.
She really She really made me angry.
But it's because she's a very crass woman who some people are calling her like the sheriff of the town or whatever. And she says that, there's a big... They talk about... Because Atticus brings up what? The things in the woods. And he's like, yeah, I've been hearing that there's some things in the woods like tearing things apart or whatever. And she's like the protector of this tower. The only stone tower in the whole fucking village. Everybody's like wearing like... Amish clothes and shit, except for her. And they meet that Dell woman, and she's like saying that the animal attacks are because of black bears. And you find out really quick that she's making a very crude comparison to people of color and that she's not very fond of people of color. But she's just kind of abiding by these rules that she was told by Samuel Braithwaite, who you get to meet here shortly after. I think it was right after, right?
Oh, yeah, because they start going back, and they were walking in town, and then the more creatures come up.
Well, that's right. Yeah, they do have... Because they're having this conversation about the Braithwaites and who Titus was. And George is like, oh, yeah, I remember. Titus was notoriously kind to his slaves.
Keyword notorious.
Yeah, and like all of a sudden, that's when the Shoggoths come up. And try to attack them again. And, of course, Christina Braithwaite is...
Not me.
She blows the whistle.
I love it when there's the Christinas.
Oh, God. I don't know if you want to be compared to her.
Not her.
Although she's the nicer one of the group, I guess.
Oh. Find out.
But she blows the whistle. And then, of course, that also not only makes the Shoggoths go away, but it also makes everybody forget. I've noticed. Except Atticus, because when they blew the whistle last time and they came to the house, they all forgot.
Right.
So it must be that.
Right.
They had also heard Dell blow the whistle, remember? Because she had dogs on a leash.
And that's how they recognized, that's how they met her.
Right. Well, Atticus remembered.
Yeah.
He was like, that's the whistle.
Yeah. They're thinking that Atticus is like having... like war flashbacks too, which I thought was like, was he? Which made me like, then I was like, is he?
Well, Atticus is
he
like, what are you
crazy?
doing? What are you
Like,
doing?
What's going on? How's it?
But he's like telling George and Letitia are both like, like, he's kind of losing it because we don't remember any of this.
Right.
And he's like, what the hell? He said, we're just saying you're acting kind of strange, and things. He's like, yeah, well, it's also strange that every book that you love is in the library there. It's also strange that Letitia's got the perfect size outfits in her room. Like, that is strange. So they talk to William, and he tells them that this house was built in like 1833, rebuilt because it was burned down or something like that, right?
Yeah, it sounded like it was the
slaves rebuilt it or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. And the only survivor was Hannah, who was a slave, who you find out later was also impregnated by Titus, whether by force or whatever. We don't really know, but we assume, because if he's the ancestor, somebody had to pass on the genes, right?
Right.
And that's when they all go to their rooms again, and George finds a secret room. George grabs a book, and it just happens to be the one book that opens up this doorway in his room to this like fucking Harry Potter fucking room that's like full of books, and like he finds like a book on the table. Now, the first book he pulls to open that door, I looked this up, is The House of on the Borderland, which was a book that was by a supernatural horror novel by British fantasy novel writer William Hope Hodgson, which H.P. Lovecraft actually praised that it was one of his best works and that he liked Hope Hodgson's work in particular.
That's a good...
Yeah, I remember I wrote that down because I was like, oh, that means something.
Yeah.
So we're checking it out. We're searching it for you guys. Anyway, but I looked that up, and that was interesting. And then, of course, he finds another book on the table called The Order of the Ancient Dawn. Now, the book that's on the table, the Ancient Dawn or whatever, the Book of Dawn or whatever, its name could be a reference to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which was a secret society that was founded in like the 19th century in London. It was founded by the Freemasons, an organization that used Masonic traditions. But the name Ancient Dawn or Dawn is part of Huff's book. So the Lovecraft Country.
That's funny because actually
they changed it in the show.
Yeah, they changed it in the show because it was called Order of
Adam.
Order of Adam. So that's.
But they're kind of like twisting it around and adding some H.P. Lovecraft stuff in there, and kind of like referencing secret societies and stuff. And I think that all plays in later, of course, when George has his big speech, which was awesome. So there's a lot of mystery going on. So we're really getting a lot of info dump here, and that's when we get introduced to Samuel Braithwaite, who's going through some surgery on a table.
He's getting his liver taken out
so he could feed the other members of the order.
I thought that was cool.
Which is really weird. Yeah. Like they believe in Adam in the Bible.
Yeah, they worship Adam. So
before Eve fucked it all up, as they say.
Yeah.
Or rather, Christina says it.
It's always the woman. Right?
Well, that's why I think Christina Braithwaite says it when she's speaking with him. She was like, yeah, that was before Eve came and fucked it all up or whatever. It's kind of like her bitter way of saying, yeah, because she's a woman.
Right.
So, because this is a lot of the stuff that was going on in that time, too, because women were not allowed to be a part of this order because it's Adam. He was a male. So she's excluded. Of course, Letitia's excluded. He talks about the passage in the Bible called Genesis 2:19 about how everything had its right place before Eve fucked it up, essentially. It's a painting on the wall that he admires, has all the animals of the animal kingdom in it, and like everything. So they want to go back to a traditional time, a better time to make America great again. I don't know. Maybe they're making a fucking stupid thing there, Like I said, I know that the book does make a lot of parallels to what was going on in the real world at the time.
And I'm actually going to start reading the book.
Oh, that's right.
They had it at the library. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to listen to the book, Patrick. Because I'm lazy.
We had a big debate with one of our friends who said that reading is not listening to audiobooks. But then we were like, I read you loud and clear, buddy.
I'm sorry, Patrick.
But anyway, we get also Atticus talking to Christina, and she's like, hey, you may want some friends during this time because not everyone seems to be who they say they are, and you might want to be nice to me because I'm one of the good ones. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, if you're so good, he's like, why do you belong to the KKK or something like that? And she's like, please. They're too poor to be hanging out with us.
Yeah, pretty much.
So she doesn't deny the fact that they have similar ideologies, but they're too poor to be a part of the same group. So that kind of makes me feel like this is some sort of racist group.
Right.
That they're trying to make an issue with.
Puritans or something.
Well, he even mentions Puritans. I think Samuel does when he was doing his whole Genesis
they
thing.
just took my liver.
Yeah, he was like, I was giving my liver.
So everyone could eat it.
So do KKK members, like, feed each other their livers and stuff? No, I'm kidding.
I don't know.
It's probably like...
Maybe they were secret cannibals.
I just think it's kind of telling because it's like, she didn't say they don't agree with them. She wasn't raised to be against them, just that they're too poor. She has this conversation with Atticus, right? Talking about trust, essentially. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, then, why don't you make my friends remember? She's like, well, I didn't bring them. Right. You did.
Right.
And then he's like, okay.
Get his dad. Like, fuck.
I love that, like, when she makes them remember instantly, she's like, done. And you hear Letitia, like, she's like, ah!
And then I loved it how then all of a sudden the force field on the door, and then it just felt like why is this shit turning into like a Harry Potter house?
Well, yeah, they definitely have. I mean, if she can just turn it off like that with her mind, she didn't say some spell.
Yeah, she was just instantly like done.
So they're wizards.
They're wizards.
Yeah, even he's tapping through the wall with George doing what do you call it?
Morse code.
Morse code. Yeah. Yes, thank you. And saying wizards. The next part is actually where she goes outside and the cow is giving birth, and it's a breach. And you notice that the cows are giving birth to Shoggoths. I also thought the Shoggoths also were like vampires in a way, in this lore, at least. Yeah. George's lore, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they get bit and they also turn. So how many are birthed and how many are created? Oh,
yeah, that's true.
I don't know. They're obviously creating these guard dogs for their house. But what happens now that the house is destroyed?
Yeah,
so you find out that everybody starts having their own fantasies. Mm-hmm. That the house is like house or the people or whatever are letting them live their fantasies to forget about whatever problems that there is. Like Letitia, she goes and has a dream about Atticus making out with her, and then he pulls down his pants for a snake cock.
Well, that's because there's a painting on the wall, and it looked like Adam and Eve.
Right.
But Adam had a snake cock. So
so she was somehow thinking of him as the... Yeah.
That confused me because I thought that was like really happening and that was really him.
I knew right away when he kissed her. I was like, that seems a little weird. Like, maybe...
Well, you knew it was going to happen.
And then they cut to Atticus, who is having another fantasy, a nightmare, rather, of him in South Korea for the Korean War thing. Mm-hmm. And he's fighting...
When he was fighting in the Korean War.
Who he also called somebody in Korea in the first episode. Mm-hmm. And some people are saying in his dream that he had in the very first episode where the girl was in red, that this is the same girl that he's fighting.
Oh, okay.
And we also find out that he might have killed somebody and has a lot of guilt for it, so it's manifesting that guilt.
Right.
For him.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought it was just the guilt.
Meanwhile, we got George, who we find out had an affair with Montrose's wife.
We called her Dora. Was that her name?
But we find out it's definitely his significant...
Well, he said, Dora, this isn't real. You're dead.
Right. She died, I guess.
She died? Okay.
But she gave birth to... Atticus. Well, they have an argument later on about this, but we find out that George has had this affair with this woman at some point in time. Whether it's against his current wife or whatever, he had some sort of affair, and you find out later what that meant. More so, because he has a conversation with Montrose when we find him. But they invite Atticus, and they invite George to dinner. But before that, we get to see the Order watching them through these portal doors that they can't see through. So, like, right. Atticus, Letitia.
With these fantasies that are going on, which was fucked up, dude.
Right. They were, like, going nuts, and they were, like, watching them drinking and, you know, which is probably symbolic, you know, for, like, the times or something like that.
It reminded me of that scene in Get Out.
Almost like television, watching it on television, not caring or something. Maybe, who knows. What were you going to say in Get Out?
It reminded me kind of that scene, that auction scene in Get Out. When all the white people were...
Oh, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of does have that vibe, doesn't it? But this is where George has his big moment, right? Because George has seen the book, the Dawn book, that he found on the table behind the hidden wall. He speaks out loudly because he read that book, and he read the bylaws of the Order of Dawn. And Atticus is apparently... He makes the assumption, because he's a smart guy, that Atticus is a blood descendant of Titus.
I think he knew. I think he already knew.
Probably, yeah. And maybe it was in the book. But in the bylaws, Atticus is the true heir, and he can actually tell anybody in the Order to do whatever the fuck he's doing.
I gotta say, though, during George's speech, he mentioned Prince Hall.
Yeah.
Which I thought was awesome, because he was real. He was a real guy.
Freemason.
Yeah, he was he created the Black Freemasons, and he named it after himself.
In Boston, yeah.
Yeah, in Boston. And I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, he was an abolitionist and he was a leader of the black community.
Oh, yeah.
In Boston for that.
I looked up his gravesite, too, because, you know, I'm into that. And I'm like, oh, I want to go to his gravesite.
Yeah, we're cool. Boston? Yeah. When are we going to go there?
When Corona's over.
Yeah, in a couple of years. But I love this part because he kind of like, George is so well-spoken, and he's so good at being a prick in the nicest way in this way at this moment. And Atticus kind of, I don't think he knew that he was going to do that. It just kind of goes with it. And he was like, now I'd like for everyone, aside from Samuel here, to get the fuck out. And they're all like, yeah, right. And even they make you question whether or not this is all bullshit or is he really the heir?
Yeah.
But it all makes sense because
of course.
Why would they steal Atticus's dad in the first place? It's so that he could do the same thing that they want him to do at some point. He does it. He says it a second time, and then they all get up, and you can see Samuel's none too happy about how he was treated, how everybody else was treated, because it's really them that have been pulling the strings for so long that they feel like they're in power, but the bylaws state that he is a blood descendant.
Right.
And he has the power to do so.
Yeah, over everybody else, too.
Right, but he's just not knowledgeable. He doesn't know what's going on.
Right. And Sam was like a cousin.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how that all worked and how he got into position 100%.
Well, because back when they were discussing about when it burned down, the lodge had burned down at
Hannah
first,
was the only survivor.
And they were talking about the picture on the wall, and they said that was his cousin. Or great cousin or something.
Like after this happens, Samuel's pissed. He's like, you know, don't wear out your welcome because don't mistake, don't mistake need for, you know, your place or whatever. Like you may be in control in this particular thing, but you're going to wear out what your real need is for, which is just to open a door to Eden. Apparently. So
you can live forever? Why don't you have one of those things bite you? Sure,
right.
You know, you'll live forever then.
Well, this is where they have Atticus' dad, Montrose, who they figure out was being held captive in that stone tower where the Dell bitch with the dogs and everything, she's like holding him down there. They all go down there and find out that he's getting out.
He's escaping.
They think he's not down there, and then they realize, oh, he's tunneled a hole, and he's trying to break out of the ground like some comic book or something, which he really did a good job of pushing those stones back, I would say. Yeah. I don't know how easy that would have been. I probably would have just left the hole. But yeah, he's coming up out of the ground, and it's kind of a weird, awkward meet there to meet his dad for the first time. And he's like...
Well, not the first time, just a long time.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as the viewer...
Oh, yeah.
We didn't really get to meet his dad in this show yet.
Right.
So it's just kind of an odd, like, hey, what you doing up here coming up out of the ground? I'm trying to escape, motherfucker.
It's like, why did you come? Like, you shouldn't have come. You wrote me a letter.
That's right.
Yeah.
He said, you wrote me a letter, and he was like, they forced me to, or something like that, right?
Right, because even in the first episode, they said that didn't sound like him.
Like, right. Yeah. That's true. That's where they
Something right.
they try to escape in their car, which they call Woody. Isn't that what they call the car? Woody?
Shit, I forget.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
But they use the Marilyn Manson theme song from the John Wick movie, Killing Strangers.
I was just gonna say that, yeah.
It's from the album The Pale Emperor.
It works well.
It's a weird dynamic to have this olding time with new music.
Yeah, but every episode there's gonna be one.
There's two. There was two. You had the Jeffersons.
Oh, yeah.
Well, three, technically, if you think of Gil Heron.
Oh, yeah, because it was ahead of 62 or
it was like 70s as well, I think. I don't remember.
Tell us in the comments.
But they try to escape over the bridge, the sort of Beetlejuice bridge.
Totally.
That they go and they floor it and they hit a fucking another spell wall, which you can see the like spells on the outside of the bridge or whatever on the inside, I guess. And it smashes the front of the car, which I thought they were going pretty fast, and that would have fucked them up really bad because they didn't have seatbelts back then, really. I mean, they might have.
But those cars were made out of like steel.
Right, which means it would hit the window harder.
Yeah. Oh, but I thought wouldn't it be
I don't know.
harder?
This is a
to
stupid
bend?
argument.
I know
but
it is.
It's just something I was thinking about when I watched it. I was like, man, they're probably going to die if they hit that fast. They needed
to survive anyway, so we could get to the next scene.
Well, they shoot Letitia.
I gotta say, though, her death scene, like, kind of stood out to me because I was like, what the hell? They're really going to kill her off? Like, what the hell? And I do. Like, she did a good job dying.
Well, she didn't die.
Sorry, well, not technically, but I'm just saying as an actress.
She got hurt. She got passed out.
Well, I'm not an actress, but I'm just saying her as an actress, like seeing her. Oh, she died. Her eyes are open.
And then
she died right there by the car. That stood out to me.
Then you see Samuel and Christina come up, and he's like, "Help me, Christina," because they had also had a conversation during this time before. That he was like, yeah, we know. I know why. He's like, so you just serve your dad even though he doesn't give two shits about you. Okay.
Right.
So they've kind of made this bond that they're both being used, even though she's not exactly a good person or anything. But she has the vengefulness about that shit with her father.
Right.
I know how to hurt you now. And he's like, I'm just going to shoot one of your other family members, whatever. And he shoots George. You find out later. And so then instantly it's like naked Atticus ass in front of Christina having that conversation about, oh, you're just letting your dad do all that. And you're just his dog or whatever. And you're not even allowed to the table. You have to eat on the floor sort of attitude.
Right.
While he's getting robes and like his body clean for the ceremony of Eden, that they're going to open the door to Eden back in the time and make sure that they change things. What were they going to do? Kill Eve?
No, they were opening the portal
to Eden.
Right. So he could live forever and he could restore balance and blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe they were trying to stop Eve going back in time somehow.
I don't know.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, I see what you're saying, but
yeah, they were gonna.
It's stupid cult shit.
They couldn't kill her because then there would be no people.
Fuck, I don't know.
Well, how were they going to have kids?
That whole story's bullshit anyway.
A lot of incest going on there.
Yeah, exactly. That's all bullshit.
Well, anyway, so they do this like big thing where they have these balls of electricity that look like Tesla balls or whatever, and he's like standing in between it and opens the door, and you see all the Eden spilling into reality.
Yeah.
But they also show you can see Hannah who's pregnant. So it's almost like she's somehow interrupted the time portal or whatever.
Or her ghost showed up and was like, I don't think so.
It's trying to help him, obviously.
Yeah.
His power destroys the whole fucking place.
Right. That was a cool part.
While this was all happening, though, this is when Montrose and George are talking, because first you see Letitia. I keep saying Letitia, but it's Letitia. Please, guys, give me a fucking break here. There's a lot of information. Just give me a break here, all right?
It's my fault. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so Letitia, she gets her wound fixed and she's freaking out in the bathroom. And that's when George and Montrose have this specific conversation about their past and how their father was abusive. And Montrose got the brunt end of the whole fucking thing. And, of course, George didn't know.
I have a question. So when Letitia came back to life, do you think he used the Necronomicon?
I don't know. I've heard people talk about that because George grabs a book on the way out, but that book is really thin.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're able to make them remember things by just thinking about it. They could probably heal people by just thinking about it as well.
Oh, okay. I don't know. That would take a lot of power.
A lot of people have mentioned the Necronomicon. They mentioned the Necronomicon in this episode, and there is supposedly something about dead something in the next episode. I've heard that.
Okay.
But we haven't seen the Necronomicon, so there's no real reason to assume that just yet. It's just...
Well, let's just hope.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll see it at some point, maybe. I don't know. But the thing I was talking about, the important conversation that him and his brother have, Montrose and George, he mentions, he's like, look, you need to straighten up because he may need you. Atticus may need you. Mm-hmm. And he was like, find that love that I know is inside of you that you could show to Atticus. He's like, I told you not to fucking tell me how to fucking raise my son. But George says he might not be yours. So we realize that there's some sort of thing going on because Montrose says, we promised we wouldn't talk about that.
Right.
We made a pact that we would never bring that up again.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, but he may need you more now than before it's too late because he's dying, essentially.
Right.
Which supposedly in the book, he doesn't die.
No, he doesn't.
But in this story, he does, but we don't know. He could be brought back.
Yeah, because that's what I was saying. Maybe they'll use the Necronomicon and they'll bring George back.
Right, but when you... Yeah, but I don't know because
I hope so.
They talk about good magic and bad magic, which is Necronomicon, and the good Adam magic, the light magic or whatever they talk about.
That didn't look like good magic to me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They do talk about it somewhere in there. I just don't remember exactly what they said because,
there's so much going on.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
But I do find it interesting because that would make sense that if George is his father, and I think that he is because whatever happened back then, Dora was he had a fling with Dora, which they had settled as brothers about in the past.
And they knew there was something with his DNA or something.
Right.
And so they wanted to make sure no one could get to him, to get Atticus to come and get him.
Right. So for whatever reason, I don't understand why it wouldn't work with like maybe George or I don't know. That's weird, right? Like if they all come from a bloodline from Hannah.
Yeah, but it's probably the last male of the bloodline.
Maybe that's what it is. So I don't know. That's the confusing part. But we'll find out. So that's when you see Whitey on the moon that plays. Mm-hmm. While the ceremony opens the door to Eden, he sees Titus' servant and his ancestor. He screams and all the people turn to stone, which was pretty cool.
That was cool. That was really cool.
They even Samuel gets fucking destroyed. Mm-hmm. All I kept thinking about when I was watching Samuel is like the Belko experiment. Yeah. Because he's in the Belko experiment, if you guys don't know.
Yeah.
That's when Atticus sees Hannah. She's pregnant. She's walking out towards the front door, showing him how to escape the place.
Because it's collapsing.
Because it's collapsing all around him. Now, we never see what happened to Christina or William.
Right.
So they are probably still alive.
Right. Now, I heard in the book, I'll find out because I'm going to read it next week. So Christina was actually a gender swap. She was actually a male.
Yeah, like the one that's supposed to go against Samuel or whatever, it was supposed to be male. That's what I heard too.
Right.
But I don't know that really necessarily makes any difference in the show. But
I think it's interesting, and it does. Well, it interests me.
We're going to be learning two different timelines.
I want to read the novel to see how close it is to all this coming on.
They even try to escape when the whole place is starting to come down. George and Letitia and Montrose run out, and he's like, "Oh, don't move him. He could bleed out." By the time Atticus gets out, she gives him the look, and he goes to the car, and it's really heartbreaking because George was my favorite fucking character.
Me too.
And I was like, God really? Damn it.
The second fucking episode?
I hope he gets resurrected, and that's where this story, because it is weird, because George doesn't die in the book, so something might happen.
Yeah, I hope something happens, because I really liked his character. He's very knowledgeable, brings in a lot of history.
Well, and that's where they talk about when George was leaving, he did grab a book on the way out. And they don't show it in his hand. It's a small one, though, and we all know the Necronomicon is pretty big.
Maybe in this universe it's little.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Maybe it's a pocket Necronomicon.
Although, if you get the real Necronomicon, it's pretty small, actually. They kind of make it seem like the end of a season with this whole fucking thing.
I know, it just was like whoosh.
It's like everything at once, and we really are just kind of getting our footing here. So I
did, because I was like, what the fuck? Like, what's gonna happen? So I did watch a next time
the sneak peek,
and I'm like really excited.
Yeah,
now.
I saw that too. I don't know if we should mention it here because maybe some people don't watch that.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean,
they do talk about. I saw.
There's gonna be ghosts.
Yeah, I heard that. I saw the ghost thing. I saw that she gets a new house. Mm-hmm. That her sister inherits a house.
No. They get something from the lodge. They get like an inheritance from the lodge collapsing.
It was so much information that it was hard to really
digest.
It was good. I enjoyed all of what I was learning, but I just have no idea where it's going to go from here.
Yeah.
Like I have no idea, and I know that this episode's going to have some stuff, and then we'll probably do another info. I wonder if it's going to be like every other episode is like this dump. Instead of just like putting it all out, because that was a lot at one time.
Even the first episode was a lot. So
really
it's
was.
like, oh my God, like what's going to happen?
Well, no, the first one was more about getting the vibe out. Like I felt the vibe more, and I didn't really.
Oh yeah, because they were trying to get to the
This was a lot. This was like a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot of shit that happened in here. May not be spectacular by the eyes, but like the Shoggoth parts and the very first episode.
Yeah, there wasn't as many like creatures and that kind of thing.
That was kind of moody and interesting. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. What do you guys think? Did you like this episode? Does it make you more interested? Was it a little too much for you to follow? Christina thinks it might be too much because she was like, HBO, they always do this.
I did say that. I was like, Jesus Christ, am I gonna have to start a fucking flowchart to like continue? Because that's what I had to do with Game of Thrones.
Do you think that they're going to bring George back? I'd like to know what you guys think.
So.
I think that they will. I hope they do because he's such a good character.
Such a good character.
And if he's a big part of the book, you would think that they're going to have to bring him back.
I don't know. Maybe they'll replace him with somebody else.
No.
I hope not.
Montrose, we don't really know too well, but maybe he'll come around and be a better father this time because of everything. Mm-hmm. But I think it's going to come out that he might not be the father and that George was always...
Well, he obviously isn't the father.
I don't know. Well, you said that you thought...
I think it's going to be like... Maybe it'll be like a Jesus thing. You know what I mean? Like Dora got impregnated by the spirit of Adam or something. I don't know.
Oh, that might be a little too much for me to guess at. I don't know. Did you hear that somewhere?
No,
I have no fucking idea.
I didn't. I was just thinking like if he's supposed to be this... bloodline of something. I don't know. We'll find out.
We'll find out, guys. So let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Hopefully we helped you kind of understand some of the things that maybe you didn't understand or didn't know about. We wanted to include that this time around so we could kind of cover both fields. Some people just like to hear what we think. Some people want to know what's going on in the show. And I think we needed to meet somewhere in the middle. So I think it worked out.
I just like talking about things.
Right. We'll be here for next Tuesday, obviously, for a new episode on episode 3 of Lovecraft Country. If you are interested in horror, we do have a horror channel. We do a lot of stuff. We're going to be doing a lot more reviews of movies and stuff that we have on the channel.
And this week we did Monster in the Closet.
And next week she's going to be celebrating her birthday.
Yep, so. And we are doing
Hagsploitation.
Whatever happened to Baby Jane?
And then the sequel, which is
Hush Hush
Charlotte.
Something Charlotte. Yeah. Betty Davis. Yes.
Stay tuned, guys. Thanks for coming by, and as always,
long live the void. Bye.